Making Pakistan and Pakistan movement. Pakistan movement almost started after the War of Independence in 1857. The Muslims were left alone after the war. The consequences affected the Muslims almostly. Sir Syed Ahmad Khan worked hard for the uplift of Muslims. The major first event was the foundation of the All India National Congress. The Indian National Congress was founded in 1885. Its founder was a retired British civil servant, Alan Octavian Hume, who took this initiative with the blessing of the British government. Vamish Chandra Banerjee was its first president. The Congress claimed to be an organization meant for representing the entire Indian population. It further claimed that it will look after the interests of all the communities living in India, to whatever religion, caste, creed, or area they belong to. Sir Syed Ahmad Khan, the most prominent Muslim leader of the time, was of the opinion that the Muslim community of India should adopt modern British education system. In order to educate the Muslims in the modern British tradition, he established many educational institutions. The Mohammedan Anglo-Oriental School, Aligarh, established in 1875, was the most important of these and was upgraded as MA College 2 years later in 1877. Mohammedan Educational Conference was instituted in 1886. Sir Syed also published a magazine, Tehzeeb-ul Akhlaq, and for many years this served as his organ of social reform. Inspired by Sir Syed's initiative for the uplift of the educational standard of the Indian Muslims, other institutions were established in different parts of India. Islamia College Lahore, Sindh Madrasatul Islam Karachi, and Islamia College Peshawar are the most well known. Sir Syed was a staunch advocate of Hindu-Muslim collaboration, which he believed was a prerequisite of the progress of India. But he did not agree with the Congress philosophy of a single Indian nationhood and disagreed with its politics of agitation. He criticized the Indian National Congress and advised the Muslims to abstain from joining the Congress. He clearly said that the Congress, representing only the Hindu community and was by no means a representative of the entire Indian population. He wanted the Muslims to acquire excellence in the field of modern education and to address the government directly for the safeguard of their rights. He believed that the Muslims should secure a place for themselves in the newly emerging system on the basis of merit and capability. The time proved the truth and wisdom of Sir Syed Ahmad Khan. The partition of Bengal was a great turning point in the history of Muslim India. It gave a spur to the Muslim awakening movement. Bengal was a vast British Indian province and it was very difficult for a single governor to manage the remote parts of the province from the capital Calcutta. Sometimes it took weeks' time to travel from one part of the province to another. Keeping in view the administrative difficulties, the Viceroy Lord Curzon decided to partition the province into two parts. In 1905, the eastern part of the province was demarcated into a new province, namely the province of East Bengal, and Assam with its headquarters at Dhaka. The partition was made on purely administrative grounds, but its consequence proved greatly beneficial for the Muslims. The newly demarcated province of East Bengal had only overwhelmingly Muslim population. Hindus were outraged over the partition and they demanded the annulment of the partition. With the passage of time, the Hindu movement got more violent and anti-partition Hindu extremists started terrorist activities to get the partition annulled. The government was caught and annulled the partition in 1911. The two provinces were again amalgamated into one large province of Bengal. The annulment came as a great setback to the Muslims, however, it gave them a lesson. The Muslims came to realize that they could trust neither the Hindus nor the British for the protection of their rights. They must learn to rely on their own strength. The Congress claimed to be a national party, but no, the question of partition, it behaved like a sectarian Hindu organization. Shortly after the partition of Bengal, a deputation consisting of 35 eminent Muslim leaders had a meeting with Viceroy Lord Minto at Simla on October 1, 1906. The deputation briefed the Viceroy about the demands of the Muslim community of India. The Viceroy's attitude was very encouraging. He sympathized with the Muslim demands and promised to take them up with the British government. Most of the Muslim demands, including the demand for joint electorate, were granted in the Government of Act 1909. It was also known as the Minto-Morley reforms. This marked the political beginning of two-nation theory. The All India Muslim League was founded in Dhaka on December 30, 1906 with the prime objective of safeguarding and protecting the interests of the Indian Muslims and to convey their demand to the British government in a peaceful manner and through constitutional means. The second objective of the Muslim League was to foster feelings of goodwill and understanding between the Muslims and other Indian communities. The founders of the Muslim League believed that the party should not indulge in the politics of agitation as the Congress had done. But in the following years, the Muslim League leadership started feeling that the government was not trustworthy and the changing circumstances demanded that the Muslim League should join hands with the Congress to get rid of the foreign rule. Following events led to this change of mind. The partition of Bengal was annulled in 1911, although the government had declared it as a settled matter. On August 3, 1913, many Muslims were killed at Kanpur. These Muslims were staging an agitation to express their grief over the demolition of a part of a mosque. Muslim demands were totally ignored. The Khilafat of Turkey was greatly venerated by the Indian Muslims as the center of global Muslim fraternity and the leader of the Muslim Ummah. In the World War I, Turkey sided with Germany and opposed the Britain. The Indian Muslims were grieved over the anti-Khilafat British policy, which was likely to end in total disaster of the Turkish Empire. Tripoli was an important part of the Turkish Empire. In the year 1911, Italy occupied Tripoli and Italian troops committed indiscriminate slaughter of the Muslim population. The Indian Muslims observed all these developments very keenly. They were gloomy and depressed over the plight of their Muslim brethren and were infuriated against the British rulers. Quaid-e-Azam Muhammad Ali Jinnah, who was up till that time a member of the Indian National Congress, was a great advocate of the Indians' right of self-determination. This principle at that time was known as Home Rule. The Quaid-e-Azam believed that the goal of Indian independence would be achieved within no time if the Congress and the Muslim League joined hands to struggle for it. In order to bring the two parties closer, the Quaid-e-Azam joined the Muslim League in 1930. As a member of India's two most influential political parties, Muhammad Ali Jinnah started to work for his strong and long-cherished objective of Hindu-Muslim unity, and consequently the independence of India. On Quaid-e-Azam's suggestion and due to his efforts, the Muslim League and the Congress held their session jointly at Bombay in December 1915 and later at Lucknow on 13th and 31st of December 1960. It was decided that both the Muslim League and the Congress would submit to the government a joint agreed a scheme of constitutional reforms for India. The scheme known as the Lucknow Pact 1960 was based on the principle of self-government for India. Under this scheme, the Indian National Congress for the first time agreed to accept Muslim demand for separate electorate. It was on this occasion that Mr. Sarojini Naidu, an eminent Indian leader, gave Jinnah the title of the Ambassador of Hindu-Muslim Unity, and he really deserved it. The spirit of the Lucknow Pact, however, did not last long. The friendly atmosphere created by the pact soon disappeared, and an extreme Hindu element took over the Congress. Under the extremist influence, the Congress started deviating from the Lucknow Pact in general and the Muslim demand for separate electorate in particular. Under the changed circumstances, a committee was formed for the review of the Lucknow Pact and for framing new constitutional proposals. After its president Pandit Lal Nehru, the committee's proposal was named Nehru Report. The report was published in August 1928. Nehru Report totally ignored the Muslim demands put forward by the Quaid-e-Azam as Delhi proposals. The Quaid-e-Azam was greatly disappointed at the Nehru Report. He called a meeting of the All India Muslim League at Delhi 1929 and presented a 14-point formula, which he declared were the minimum demands of the Muslims. The Muslim League framed Jinnah's 14 points into a resolution and made it an official document by adopting it as a resolution. Quaid-e-Azam's 14 points provided good ground for Hindu-Muslim unity, but the Congress arrogantly refused to accept them and kept insisting on the Nehru Report. The Simon Commission was sent to India by the British government with a purpose to prepare a constitutional formula acceptable for both the Hindus and the Muslims. The Congress and the Muslim League rejected the Commission's proposals. The Quaid-e-Azam addressed a proposal to the British Prime Minister Ramsay MacDonald to call the Indian leaders to London for a roundtable conference. The British government agreed and the conference was convened. 3 round tables of talks were held in 1930, 31 and 32. Quaid-e-Azam, Muhammad Ali Jinnah, Allama Iqbal and other prominent leaders represented the Muslims in different sessions of the conference. The Congress boycotted the first session. Gandhi attended the second session. He tried to convince the parties to accept the Nehru Report. Gandhi attended the second session. He tried to convince the parties to accept the Nehru Report, failing which he returned to India and did not participate in the third session. The NWFP and Sindh were given the status of full provinces. This was the only substantial Muslim achievement resulting from the conflict. After the second session of the Roundtable Conference, the findings and recommendations of the British government were formulated into a communal award. These proposals formed the basis of the Government of India Act 1935. The Government of India Act did not satisfy Congress demands. In the session of the Central Legislative, it was bitterly criticized. The Assembly, however, on Quaid-e-Azam's proposal, resolved to adopt the provincial part of the Act. Elections of the provincial assemblies under the Government of India Act 1935 were held in February 1937. The election results were not very encouraging for the Muslim League. The Muslim League could win only 109 out of the 485 Muslim seats. Muslim League's performance in the Muslim majority provinces even more disappointing. The Congress won absolute majority in 5 out of the 11 provinces. In 3 other provinces, the party was able to form coalition governments in collaboration with other parties. The Congress ruled badly. This period was marked with political corruption and high-handedness of the party over the government. These governments introduced schemes like Vidya Mandir and Gajnees Varda. The schemes were not acceptable for the Muslims. The Congress government took steps to replace Urdu with Hindi and tries to introduce Bande Mataram as an official anthem. This song had anti-Muslim background and provoked hatred against the Muslims. Certain developments in international politics during this period had deep impact on Indian politics. World War II started on September 3, 1939 with Britain's declaration of war against Germany. British Indian government followed suit 2 days later. Viceroy Lord Lithgow requested the Indian political parties, especially the Congress and the Muslim League, to cooperate with the war efforts of the British government. Gandhi and Nehru imposed preconditions. They wanted an assurance that the India government will be handed over to the Congress as soon as the war ends. The Viceroy refused to assure. The Quaid-e-Azam said that the Muslim League was ready to cooperate if the government assures that India will be given independence at the end of war, and Muslim League's demands will be incorporated in the future Constitution of India. On Viceroy's assurance, the Muslim League pledged to support the British war efforts. Congress governments resigned in protest. The All India Muslim League marked the occasion of the Congress resignation by observing a Deliverance Day. On December 22, 1939, the Muslims expressed relief at the termination of the oppressive Congress rule. The Lahore Resolution 1940. The Muslim League met for its 27th annual session in Lahore from 22 to 24 March 1940. A resolution was introduced by the Bengal Premier A.K. Fazlul Haq on 23 March and was unanimously and enthusiastically approved by the general body of the participants on March 24. The participants represented the entire Muslim community of India. The most important part of the resolution: geographically contiguous units be demarcated into regions in which the Muslims are numerically a majority, as in the north, western and eastern zones of India, should be grouped to constitute independent states in which the constituent units shall be autonomous and sovereign. The resolution was originally called Lahore Resolution, but later it came to be known as Pakistan Resolution. This name was given by the hostile Hindu press and readily picked up by Quaid-e-Azam. In the following 7 years, the Lahore Resolution was referred to as the sole document formulating Indian Muslims' unanimous national aspiration. In April 1940, All India Muslim League Madras session adopted the Lahore Resolution verbatim without any amendment in the text as Muslim League official mission statement, and it was made a part of the All India Muslim League manifesto. Some people objected that the Lahore Resolution was based on the demand of states, not a single state, and it was absolutely silent on the question of uniting the northwestern Muslim majority areas of India with northeastern Muslim majority areas into one state. These areas were later called West Pakistan and East Pakistan respectively. The confusion was resolved in the Muslim Legislature's convention held in Delhi on 9 April 1946. Involvement in the World War II impelled the British to make an all-out effort for the solution of the Indian problem. Since the Congress represented the majority community and was in a better position to dictate her terms on the British rulers and exploit matters to her benefit, it was only through the Quaid-e-Azam's leadership, his exceptional negotiation skills, and his wise, timely decisions that the Muslim Leagues were able to overcome all obstacles and make their way to independence successfully and triumphantly. The Cripps Proposal 1942. The British had to face military setbacks during the early years of World War II. This made the need for Indian support more pressing. Sir Stafford Cripps, a member of the British cabinet and old personal friend of Gandhi and Nehru, was sent to India in the year 1942. His purpose was to explore the possibilities of a compromise with the Indian political parties. The crux of the British proposals which Cripps carried was the creation of an Indian Union after the end of war. The Union was to be given a dominion status, which implied complete internal dependence within the framework of the British Commonwealth. It was proposed that the provinces will be given a right to opt out of the proposed Indian Union and establish independent governments of their own. This provision was not acceptable for the Congress as it amounted to disintegrating India, which Congress could not tolerate. The Muslim League also rejected the scheme simply because it did not concede her demand for Pakistan in clear terms. The Congress knew that the British were negotiating from a weaker position. It was written on the wall that the British were not going to leave India. In August 1942, the Congress Working Committee, taking advantage of the government's weakness, made a call for immediate withdrawal of the British government from India. A warning was given that if the Quit India call was not considered, the Congress will resort to civil disobedience and call the people to resist and violate government authority. The government reacted firmly. The Congress was banned and the highest Congress leaders, including Gandhi, were arrested the very next day. The Muslim League adopted a moderate stance, anticipating the Allied forces' victory and its aftermath. Like a great visionary, the Quaid-e-Azam decided to cooperate with the British. He knew that if the British left India without dividing her, the Muslims will be left helpless and entirely on the mercy of the hostile Hindu majority. He said that the Quit India movement was a blackmail tactic and that the Muslim League would not allow the Congress to dictate its terms to the government and would not allow the British to quit India without dividing her. Jinnah Gandhi Talks 1944. Gandhi, the most influential of the all Hindu leaders, was released in May 1944 on health grounds. Soon after his release, Gandhi requested the Quaid-e-Azam to hold talks with him on the question of Muslim demands and the future political system which was to be established in India after the impending British departure. The Quaid-e-Azam agreed and a series of meetings took place between 9th and 27th of September at the Quaid-e-Azam's residence in Bombay. Unfortunately, these negotiations ended without agreement. The Quaid failed to convince Gandhi on the Muslim demand for a separate homeland and the philosophy of Lahore Resolution. Gandhi insisted that the Muslim League should join hands with the Congress unconditionally in its struggle for independence against the British, and both the parties should resolve internal problems through mutual consultation after independence has been achieved. The Quaid argued that the problem of Muslim independent homeland should be decided before the British leave India. World War II ended in August 1945, leaving the British military victorious but financially bankrupt. The British government expressed its desire to entrust Indian government to Indian hands without unnecessary delay. The Simla Conference 1945. Viceroy Lord Wavell had already declared that he intended to establish an executive council in India which will act as interim government. This council will be all Indian except the defence member and the Viceroy himself. The Hindus and the Muslims will be given equal representation in the council. To discuss the formation of the proposed council as well as the program of transfer of power, the Viceroy met the leading Indian politicians in a conference held at Simla in June 1945. The Muslim League delegation was headed by the Quaid-e-Azam himself. The Congress delegation included a number of Muslim leaders. The Congress claimed that it was a national party and represented all the Indian communities, including the Muslims. The Congress demanded that it should be given a right to appoint members on seats reserved for Muslims in the Viceroy's proposed Executive Council. The Quaid said that the Muslim League had won all Muslim seats by election held on the Muslim seat during the last 2 years. He asserted that only the Muslim League had a right to nominate members against the quota specified for the Muslims in the Viceroy's Executive Council. Lord Wavell announced failure and the conference broke on 14th July. Elections of 1945 and 1946. Elections of the central and provincial assemblies were held in the winter 1945-46. The results manifested a complete upset for the Congress so far as the Muslim seats were concerned. The Congress won an overwhelmingly majority of the non-Muslim vote. Muslim vote turned out in great majority in support of the Muslim League's demand for a separate homeland. Surprisingly, the Muslim League won all the Muslim seats in the central legislature and 446 out of a total 495 Muslim seats in the provincial assemblies. The Muslim voter thus shattered the Congress claim that it was the only and the sole representative of all Muslim people. Election result which according to Nehru manifested religious hysteria virtually divided India into two. The Muslim League was able to form governments in Muslim majority provinces except the Punjab and the NWFP. In the Punjab, the leader of the government-supported Unionist Party, Fizar Hayat Diwana, was also able to form government with the help of the Sikhs and the Congress members. Congress government in NWFP was headed by Dr. Khan Sahib. He was able to form government with the help of Hindu members. The Muslim Representatives Convention and the Delhi Resolution 1946. An All-India Muslim League Legislators Convention was held in Delhi from 7th to 9th April 1946. About 500 central and provincial assembly members elected on Muslim League's ticket attended the convention. The convention adopted a resolution. The Delhi resolution demanded that the Muslim majority provinces be integrated into a completely sovereign, independent Pakistan. From the Muslim League, this was the first resolution of its kind which spoke unambiguously about the state of Pakistan, comprising all Muslim provinces of the subcontinent. Cabinet Mission Plan 1946. In 1946, the British government sent 3 senior members of the British cabinet as a last attempt to preserve the unity of the Indian Federation. These members were Lord Pethick, Lawrence, Sir Stafford Cripps, and V. Alexander. The mission was entrusted with the difficult task of reconciliation between the Congress and the Muslim League. The members of the mission discussed matters with the high-ranking Congress and Muslim League leaders, including Quaid-e-Azam. Offers made by the mission members to the leaders of the two major parties were turned down one after the other. On May 16, 1946, the cabinet mission announced its plan with the assertion that the proposals were final and could not be amended or negotiated upon. The two major Indian political parties were free to accept or reject the plan as a whole. Following were the salient features of the plan. Establishment of an all-Indian Union. India will be a federation consisting of the British India and the princely states. The federal government will control foreign affairs, defense and taxation. Union will have its own parliament and executive. Provincial grouping. The provinces were divided into 3 groups. Group A was to consist of the 6 Hindu majority provinces, Group B of the 3 Muslim majority provinces of the West, Sindh, Punjab and NWFP, and Group C of the 2 Muslim majority provinces of the East, Bengal and Assam. Internal independence of the provinces. It was proposed that the members of the Constituent Assembly will meet in 3 separate groups to make the constitution of their 3 respective provincial groups. 10 years after the first election held under this constitution, the legislative assemblies of the provinces will be free to decide whether the province wanted to maintain its status or it wanted to put out of the provincial group. Formation of the interim government. The cabinet mission also proposed that a provisional government to be established to run India till the making and implementation of the constitution. The cabinet was to be all Indian. The Muslim League accepted the plan with the hope that the grouping scheme will ultimately lead towards Pakistan. Nehru interpreted the plan as an appeal and an advice. He said that the Constituent Assembly, as a sovereign body having a Congress majority obviously, shall have the power to amend the plan. Looking at the Congress intention, the Muslim League also decided to withdraw its exemption. Interim Government 1946-1947. The next step was the formation of an interim government for the implementation of the Cabinet Mission Plan. This government was to consist of the Indian representatives. Negotiations to form the interim government proved difficult beyond expectation. The Muslim League, betrayed by the Viceroy time and again had decided to withdraw her approval of the plan. Congress immediately on Muslim League's decision of withdrawal announced its willingness to join the interim government. The Viceroy then invited the Muslim League to join the interim government. The Muslim League accepted the offer in larger Muslim interest. This government, however, did not function well simply for the reason that both the major parties, the Muslim League and the Congress, had no willingness to cooperate. Each had joined the government only to let the opponent down. 3rd June Plan and the creation of Pakistan. The British Prime Minister Clement Attlee made a statement in the Parliament on 20th February 1948 declaring that the India will be given independence by June 1948. Viceroy Wavell was replaced with Mountbatten. He was entrusted with a mission to make a peaceful transfer of power from the British to the Indian hands. After prolonged negotiations with the Indian leaders, Lord Mountbatten was able to work out a partition plan. The Muslim League and the Congress both gave their approval to the proposed partition plan. Mountbatten fled to England to get the approval of the British government on the plan, which was readily accorded. The partition plan was announced on 3rd June 1947 by the Viceroy. The day after the 3rd June plan was announced, Mountbatten announced that the British will transfer power to the newly created states of India and Pakistan on 15 August 1947, and not in June 1948 as fixed earlier. Both the Muslim League and the Congress announced their acceptance of the plan officially by the mid of June. The Indians decided to accept Mountbatten as the first Governor-General. The Quaid-e-Azam, however, decided to keep the office of the Governor-General for himself. This decision annoyed Mountbatten, whose revenge on the state of Pakistan caused serious trouble for our state in the years to come. The Punjab and Bengal assemblies voted for the partition of their respective provinces. Sindh Assembly and Balochistan Jagar decided to opt for Pakistan. A referendum was held in Northwest Frontier Province from 6 to 17 of July. Majority of the voters were reported to have voted in favor of Pakistan. Dr. Khan Sahib and his party, the Red Shirts, which had ruled the NWF with Congress support in the past, boycotted the referendum. The British government passed the Indian Independence Act on 15 July 1947. The act reaffirmed the principle envisaged in the 3rd June Plan. Mountbatten appointed a boundary commission headed by the Cyril Red Clough for demarcation of boundaries in the Punjab and Bengal. The Boundary Commission Award, also known as the Red Clough Award, was completed and submitted to the Viceroy on 10th August and announced on 7th of August, 3 days after the creation of Pakistan. During this period, Viceroy Lord Mountbatten made substantial changes to the award and deprived Pakistan of certain Muslim majority areas in the provinces of Punjab and Bengal. In this way, the original scheme of partition was shamefully betrayed only with the purpose of please the Congress leadership. Mountbatten fled to Karachi to transfer power to the newly created state of Pakistan on August 14, 1947. Quaid-e-Azam Muhammad Ali Jinnah was sworn as the first Governor-General of Pakistan. Liaquat Ali Khan took over as the first Prime Minister. Territory of the State of Pakistan divided into parts. Those two parts, known as East Pakistan and West Pakistan, were separated by thousands miles of hostile Indian boundary and Indian line.